Hey guys, so phase 2, we're getting really close to November and I don't know if I'm ready yet. I don't know if I'm ready for Thor Ragnarok yet. I'm still getting over Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming. And I wasn't ready for Spider-Man Homecoming. I was still kind of getting over Guardians of the Galaxy, because that movie was, wow. I watched it again the other night. Wow. Anyways, let's talk about Iron Man 3, everyone's favorite Marvel movie. So Iron Man 3 picks up a while after the Avengers. Tony Stark is back doing his thing. He's haunted by night terrors and dreams and nightmares about what happened in New York when he went through the wormhole with the nuke and he almost died and fell back through the portal last minute, and luckily he didn't die. I mean, we knew he wasn't gonna die, but he still could have. And so now he's kind of haunted by that stuff. And then he's also dealing with this threat of this new villain named the Mandarin. And meanwhile, while that is going on, there's also this shady Aldrich Killian dude. So let's talk about the cast. Robert Downey Jr. continues to shine as Tony Stark. There's really not much left I can say about this part except that he's perfect for it. And in this movie in particular, he really gets to show off more of his acting chops and do more than just sit in a sound booth and just record his face for the inside shots of the suit. Because he doesn't really wear the suit that much in the movie. For the most part in this movie, it's Tony Stark. And then Iron Man is kind of like a side character, almost. And I really like that. I'll touch on it a little bit in a minute, but I thought Ben Kingsley was amazing in this movie. More on that later, but I thought he was just incredible. Guy Pearce's Aldrich Killian was okay. He's more or less the generic, typical Marvel villain, but he has a bit more stuff to him that helps him stick out more compared to other lesser-known MCU villains. I like how they show, in this movie, they show a flashback to the New Year's Eve party in Bern, Switzerland that was referenced in the first Iron Man. When Tony Stark is in the cave with Yinsen, Yinsen's like, we met once at a conference in Bern, Switzerland, or something like that. And then in this movie, the opening scene, we get to see them meet, and they actually brought back the actor from the first Iron Man, and I thought that was really cool. That is actually one of the things I really loved about this movie, and they showed that, and then they expanded on that little story a little bit more, because it just so happened that that story ties into the villain of the movie, because we get to see freaking weird little Gollum Guy Pearce in the beginning of the movie, and he was great there too. Creepy, weird, awkward, yeah, and then it's such a huge difference from when you see him later in the movie, and he's very tall and good-looking and smart and successful. Completely the opposite of his former self. And I really like that, because it shows, because you find out in the movie that when Tony stood him up on the roof on New Year's Eve, that kind of changed his whole outlook on life, and he really changed his entire life because of it. It's a pretty cool way to kind of represent that before he even reveals it. You just see him, and he's this really good-looking, successful dude, compared to being kind of the opposite at the beginning, so that was cool. I honestly really liked him. I like Guy Pearce as an actor, so I was really excited to see him as just being a character in the movie. I wouldn't have cared if he was a hero or a villain. It was just cool to see him as a character. And then Don Cheadle also continues to be amazing in these movies as the Iron Patriot. I'm glad we get to see a lot more of him and see him get a lot more to do in these movies, especially in Phase 2 here, because in Iron Man 2, he definitely had a bigger part than Terrence Howard did as Rhodey in the first Iron Man. Obviously, he gets the suit and becomes War Machine, but then his characters just kind of dropped after Iron Man 2. But then in Iron Man 3, he has an even bigger part than he did in Iron Man 2. And then he was in Avengers Age of Ultron, and then Captain America Civil War. I'm pretty sure he's going to be in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers 4. So it's nice to see him from like this point on have a bigger part. And then I thought Gwyneth Paltrow was okay in the movie. She's my least favorite Marvel love interest, honestly. I hate Jane Foster, but I think Jane Foster is better than Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts, just because at least Jane Foster kind of contributes something to the story besides just being a love interest. Because she's a scientist and she's researching this stuff and she knows how this stuff works. Pepper Potts doesn't do anything. Like, she doesn't do anything important. And they make it feel like she's such an important part of these movies. It's like Lois Lane in Batman v Superman. She doesn't have anything important to do, but they are trying to make it seem like she's important. And so yeah. She gives a good performance in the movie. She doesn't need to be there. Her character is kind of pointless in these movies. Except being a love interest for Tony Stark. Which, I mean, I guess, sure. I'd say this is probably the second best Iron Man film. I think we can all agree on that, because even if you don't like this movie, I think we can all agree that this one is definitely better than Iron Man 2. I think we can agree on that. And again, I really like Iron Man 2. I just think Iron Man 2 is a huge disappointment, and not a great movie. It's just an okay movie. And that's fine. Marvel can make movies that are okay or because for every one movie that's just okay, they have like 4 movies that are incredible. So it's okay for them to have a little bit of a misstep here and there. But I would put this one as probably about as good as the first movie. And definitely a lot better than 2. I really liked the way this movie kind of loosely adapted the Extremis storyline from the comics. That was really fun to see. I never actually read that whole like comic arc, but I know it's one of the most iconic Iron Man stories, so it was just kind of cool to see that kind of weaved into this movie. I honestly love it when these movies do take inspiration from the comics and tweak the story a bit to make it their own. That was one of my favorite things about Civil War, was seeing how they were able to take the original Civil War story, take what they had done previously in the MCU, and then tweak the Civil War story to make it fit the MCU. That was one of my favorite things in that movie. I love the amount of different like suits and gadgets in the movie. It's definitely bigger than I think in any other movie. In this movie, the amount of suits he's made is at like 42. And there's a great action scene near the end where we get to see all of the suits in action. And it's one of my favorite Marvel third act final boss battles that I've ever seen. And just seeing like the different gadgets that he assembles throughout the movie when he doesn't have the suits, that was really cool too, because that's Tony Stark's superpower. He's really smart. He's a brilliant dude. And so we don't always get to see that in these movies. Like, yeah, he's got the Iron Man suits that he makes, but that's about it. We don't really get to see him do other stuff. So seeing him just have to, like, kind of tinker around and make, like, an electric glove out of, like a winter glove and some wiring and stuff like that was cool. Grenades out of Christmas tree ornaments. That's the kind of cool stuff that I like to see in this movie, and it made me think back to the first Iron Man, because that's what he did in the first Iron Man. He just tinkered with stuff for a majority of the movie, and that was one of my favorite things about that movie, was just seeing him tinker with the stuff and make it. So that was really cool. That's one of my favorite things about this movie, is getting to see Tony Stark without all of his tools, all his toys, and just having to improvise with what little resources he has. He's kind of, for a small part of the movie, he's hanging out in this kid's garage trying to fix up the Iron Man suit, and that was cool, because he doesn't have all of his cool tools and stuff. His house gets blown up, so he's just got to try and fix it and get things working with, like, essentially what I have in my garage. So that was really cool. I thought the story with the villain was okay. I preferred the personal story of Tony Stark most in the movie, which I was happy, because that's what we get to see for the majority of the movie. But I didn't particularly care for the villain story all that much. I know you have to have the villain there to strip away all this stuff from Tony so you can get the personal story. So in that sense, I'm fine with it. I would have liked it to have... It would have been cool if it just didn't even have a villain, if it was just Tony Stark on this personal journey. But anyways, let's talk about the twist, because that's what you guys care about. The Mandarin, I like it. I think Ben Kingsley gives an amazing performance. I think Ben Kingsley gives an amazing performance on both sides of the character, like the actor and then the acting, like the actor and the character, because he plays the actor who's playing the character of the Mandarin. I thought the twist was pretty well done, because I thought it was genuinely shocking and unexpected, and I really enjoyed it, because it was not something I was expecting, and it really worked for me, honestly. Yeah, it was kind of sucky that we didn't actually get to see the Mandarin as an actual character, because, you know, he is, like, the most iconic Iron Man villain, so it would have been really cool to see the Mandarin as an actual character, but hey, there's always a possibility in the future. There was a little short on the Thor the Dark World Blu-ray where the dude from the Ten Rings was like, the Mandarin's mad at you, Trevor, or something, so there's always a possibility that he'll show up later, and I really, really hope it happens. But yeah, I have some certain small issues. The kid in the movie does kind of suck. There's a death in the movie that I actually thought really worked very well and made a character that I didn't particularly like have a much better part and actually mean something. But then they went back on it in true Marvel fashion, and yeah, that kind of just took that away. And again, I would have really liked to have seen the actual Mandarin on screen. But overall, I think Iron Man 3 is one of the best movies of Phase 2. And definitely probably near the top of my list of favorite MCU movies. and I'm going to give it an A-. I have some small issues here and there, one kind of big issue, but overall, it's a good movie. So I would highly recommend checking it out if you're a fan of Robert Downey Jr. or Iron Man as a character. Thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what you think of Iron Man 3 if you've seen it. Click the link in the bottom of the description and check out our Patreon page. Make a pledge if you would like. Check out our Spreadshirt store. We got some t-shirts up for just like based off like the short films that I've been making, so that's cool. And yeah, thanks for watching.